Welcome back to Alive, the podcast that basically teaches you how to tune into yourself and your awakening, how to come alive, how to feel alive, how to be alive. This topic today, I want to roll. I drink a Celsius, so might as well just film the next episode. These are commonly asked questions that I get from people that are just starting to wake up, or just questions that I thought about that are really good to know and to answer. So I'm gonna do my best. Here we go. Question 1. How do I know if I'm actually waking up or just overthinking my life? I think those are essentially the same thing. So I think when people think a spiritual awakening, I think they think it's something like this grand moment where it happens all in one day, and then all of a sudden your third eye opens up and it's like, woo, I'm a celestial being. Like, no. I think that's the beginning of waking up, is you start asking questions. Society likes to distract you and keep you numb by shoving social media in your face and Netflix stuff in your face and a bunch of other things in your face. So you don't sit there and think and have a mind of your own. Because the second you do that, the second you gain your power back. So the second you start asking questions about society, about your life, about yourself, that's when you become dangerous, because that's when you officially are starting to wake up, is you start asking things. Why does everything feel off even when nothing is technically wrong? So this is an interesting one. A lot of my anxiety as a child was linked to me having to live a life that wasn't mine. And I think everybody has to do that. You have to fit into this mold of like your family, and then, they have ideas and they tell you what's right or wrong, and then that's all you know, and then you're confused why you don't feel good. I think anxiety and depression is essentially just linked to feelings or things that you have yet to tap into, or just environments or circumstances that you're in that you refuse to face can cause a lot of anxiety and depression. They're very real things. But I think, why do you feel weird even though nothing's wrong, could be for another reason, is things are actually finally right and you're used to living life where things go wrong all the time. Or you are not living up to your full potential, and even though everything seems right, it's not what you had planned, and you feel like there's something else out there to discover, because there probably is. Is it normal to feel disconnected from the life that I used to want? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think we are changing all the time. We want to go into the talks of timelines. I think we enter the timeline that we want to enter when it's time. When you're ready, a timeline and a door opens up for you. It is up for you to enter it, and you can enter many timelines. You get a ticket to Spain. Perhaps you might meet someone in Spain. That might be the love of your life. Versus you take that path, or you get a ticket to Spain. You don't take that ticket to Spain. You end up meeting somebody else that's in the States. You know what I mean? 2 different timelines based off one decision. There's a theory on that. Y'all let me know, because I forget the name of it, but you enter doors when they're there, and sometimes you think you want things. Perhaps it was fame at one point, perhaps it was, a degree at one point, and then you discover maybe that was just a dream of your parents. Sometimes when you heal a lot of your childhood wounds, you realize that your desires weren't really your desires, and that mold or that version of you that you really once held true to who you actually were crumbles, which is beautiful, because then you can pick who you actually want to be. So yeah, it is normal to feel disconnected from the life that you used to want, because maybe you thought you wanted it and then you got it and now you don't want it anymore, which is a whole nother topic to talk about, especially if it's just linked to feeling safe to have things. Sometimes you might not feel safe to have things, so you sabotage them. There's so many different, this one's a layered question, I think, but yes, it is completely normal to feel disconnected, and that's okay. That's so okay. Why do I feel like I've outgrown people, but I don't know what's next? So that one happens a lot. So the more that you evolve as a person, and you start to you start to let go of things that you no longer want to do because they don't feel good, and you decided or discovered that you were only doing them because your friends were doing them or your peers were doing them, and then you lose interest in it. You realize it wasn't really the person that you liked, it was the activity that bonded you together, especially if it's trauma or something else that's not a good vice. A lot of people are only friends because they like to drink together, And then when you take alcohol out of the situation, you realize you don't really like that person. So that's an extreme example, but oftentimes also if you're use example from myself, if you were once a school teacher and the teacher life was your thing and you were living like normal, and then all of a sudden you're like, dude, my dreams as a kid were so much more than this. I want to be on camera. I want to start making content. I want to start doing all these things. I want to start being a motivational speaker. I want to start speaking motivationally. And you start to do that, people start to not be able to relate with you. And the timeline that you're entering is different from their timeline. And that's why you outgrow them. It's not that you don't love them anymore. You're just outgrowing the life. Like, you guys just aren't a vibrational match anymore. It's all about vibration. When you start vibrating different, you start attracting different things. Your vibration is literally just what you vibrate is going to manifest in the physical form all around, including people, including things, including environments. When you start vibrating at a different frequency and you start in your head believing that you are that version of yourself, people tend to just poof out of your life. And although you love them, it's really hard to talk to them, especially when your interests changed a little bit, but that's completely normal. What does it mean when life starts to feel unreal? What does it mean when life starts to feel unreal? Is this really real? I mean, life is really just one cute little simulation. Are we really, is this real? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But life is pretty unreal, especially when you start to tap into the idea that you can control that. And your thoughts are your reality. And then it starts to come true. It starts to become really trippy and disassociating. And, try not to think about it too much is kind of all my advice, and just have fun with it. Because we're only here for a short time, so don't worry about it. All right, why does waking up feel worse before it feels better? This is back on that thing where I thought it was gonna feel worse once and then feel better once. I feel like it's that's the path of waking up in spirituality. Is it feels worse because you start to realize the things that are uncomfortable, and you start to think about the things that are uncomfortable, state of the world or state of yourself, maybe the reality of your childhood, the reality of your current reality, and you take full responsibility for that, and that's sometimes hard to accept because you led yourself into there. We call that process the dark night of the soul, and the dark night of the soul is really just navigating that darkness of all of the things, because we all have it, we all have darkness, navigating the things in life that were not so pretty and not so fun and not so loving, healing those. And before you heal them, you have to feel them, and the feeling was not very light. It was very hard, and in order to heal that, you have to feel it again and go through it, and then talk yourself through it and make peace with it and accept it and tell yourself it's okay to feel that. That feeling is so valid. And the whole concept of we're supposed to feel good all the time is such a fucking lie. Sadness, anger, all of that is part of the human experience. When they say when we heal the earth, it's just going to be happy all the time. Why would you want that? Why would you want just one emotion? That's almost boring. We can't even truly experience happiness if we don't experience the sadness either. So, if there's nothing to compare it to, then it doesn't have form. You know what I mean? Happiness is just standard, how beautiful it is to feel all the emotions. But we must first face the darkness and the shadows before we embrace the light and the possibilities of we don't have to be that anymore. We can be something else. And when you truly begin to come back to that pure form of love and acceptance and light, that's why it starts to feel better, is because you're coming back to your true form, your true self. I do think love is the truest, purest thing in life. Not that it should be the only thing, but I think that is your truest form, so that's why it feels good. Is something wrong with me, or am I just seeing things clearly now? I think you've always known, and you're just now giving yourself permission to accept it. Seeing things clearly, I think you've always seen things clearly. I just think you've always been in denial. And no, you're not crazy. I think the more that we start following that intuition and that true voice, our channel, call that your channel, when we start following that really authentically and we start trusting it, the more powerful we get with intuition and with things that are right or wrong. You base it off of just feeling, and if you're a part of human design, the way that you dictate that is very different. But for me, I feel if it feels like a hell yeah, then I go with that. If it feels like a hell no, then I don't do it. You know, seeing things clearly, like what is truth? Truth is, it varies per person. So seeing things clearly is really your perception. So, and that's all up to you. So you perceive other people, other things, other circumstances. Somebody else could see that same thing and see something completely different. So seeing things clearly really just, that's up to you. What is your clarity? And becoming clear on your intuition and your inner voice is something that's a practice. So work on that one. That one's definitely, I think everyone's, even just with everything that's going on in the world, it's like, what is truth? Face the facts that are happening and you dictate that for yourself. Why can't I go back to who I used to be? First question is, do you want that? Why would you want that? It's a beautiful thing to evolve, but that is kind of the curse of waking up, is that once you do it, you can't go back. Once you take that pill, you can't go back. And sometimes ignorance is bliss, but knowledge is power. So use that power wisely. You were given it for a reason. Why does my body feel different lately, like more sensitive or aware? Because you are giving yourself permission to feel more sensitive and more aware. We silence that. We block that. We are not taught to feel. We are not taught to be aware. We are taught to numb and be distracted. So the second that you stop allowing yourself to numb or to distract or become distracted, the more that you feel and the more that you allow yourself to feel and to pay attention, the easier it becomes. When you feel safe to do that, your natural abilities just wake up a little bit more. The more that you know how to navigate that as a whole, the more it just happens naturally, and you can't always numb yourself again. But these senses, these gifts, this ability is in you for a reason. I know we all have it, so do with that what you will. Why do I feel everything more deeply now? Again, because you allowed yourself. We are feelers. Feeling is a part of the human experience, and I think especially if you are an empath, if you have been told you were sensitive your whole life, the second that you allow yourself to do that, the second that you tap into an ability that most people silenced, and what a superpower that is to be able to feel to an extent that most people can't. You know what I mean? Even though bad things you feel very deeply and that sucks and I get it, but also the good things you feel really deeply, like love and happiness and ecstatic, just things. That's one of the coolest things I love about being empathic, is just being able to feel to such extremes, because how beautiful is that? I would really hate, it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes you don't want to feel things, but I am grateful that I do have that capacity to feel. So once you give yourself permission to use the abilities that you have, it just gets greater and greater. It's like a muscle. You work on it. Why does slowing down make me feel uncomfortable? Because we live in hustle culture and a hustle society that glamorizes the life of grinding and working hard and needing to burn yourself out to be something or have any sort of value. Or once you do slow down, thoughts creep in that you didn't really want to hear in the first place. So it could be a nervous system thing, or it could be you've slowed down to finally listen to the noise and you don't like the noise. Slowing down is something that I'm still working on, is just slowing down and being present and just coming back to the senses, because really that's when we make more clear decisions. And presence is rare these days, and I think the ability to slow down is a gift. What if I wake up and realize I built a life I don't actually want? That normally happens when you wake up, is that you realize you built a life that you don't actually want. And that's okay. That's why we wake up, is because it's time to finally live the life that we always wanted to live. I think for so long we just do what society tells us to. We live that sort of lifestyle for so long, and then all of a sudden we're like, why am I so unhappy? It's because you were not really staying true to what you wanted. You never slowed down to listen to what you actually want. You never got to try things. You just followed suit and lived a life that everybody told you to live. So yes, it's completely normal to realize that you don't like your life. It happens to people, okay? It does. It's totally normal and totally okay, is all I want to say. And it's up to you to tune into that and be brave enough to live a life that you actually want to live. How do I trust myself when everything that I believed in is changing? So that is also disorienting, is that truth is your perception on something, right? And What was once true to you was your perception or just a belief that you heard from something, and you decided to accept that as your truth. So maybe someone said something, your fifth grade teacher told you a truth. That was her opinion, and you adopted that truth. And all these little tiny truths kind of come together to build your reality and your perception on life and what your truth is and what your viewpoint is. And if you all of a sudden want to change that truth, that doesn't mean that you were incorrect. That just means that you wanted to change that perception. So my truth one time was that I used to believe in soulmates, and then now I don't. And that doesn't mean that either are true or not true. There is no one truth. There are multiple truths. You just decide what is true to you currently. And these can change. Your beliefs can change all the time. That's completely true. How do you trust yourself? Is ask yourself, is this my truth? You ask yourself. You know the answers to everything. Trust it. The more you trust yourself, the easier it gets to understand what's right or wrong, if you know what I'm saying. Is it selfish to choose a different path than what's expected of me? Yes, it absolutely is. But is that a bad thing necessarily? I don't think so. In fact, I know so it's not. If you are living your truth 100% to who you are, yes, it's selfish because you're living for yourself, but when we are told to live a life and we live that life in accordance to somebody else's beliefs or in somebody else's way, we are not living up to our truest potential and our lives. When our lives are not our own, we get depressed, we get sad, we become unfulfilled. So I think the world needs to be more selfish, honestly. I think people need to be more selfish in what they want and what they know is better for them, and be more selfish in their truth of what they know is right. I think too many people out there live to the expense of other people, and that's why a lot of us are unhappy, is because we live our whole lives trying to please someone else or something else, and we don't stay true to us. When we can't better our own selves, we can't better the world. So if you are being selfish, or if you are being selfless, I think, certain acts you should be selfless. But when it's in accordance to the betterment of yourself and the world, I think it's very important to be selfish. I'm not saying go screw other people over and be an asshole. Sometimes the most selfish thing you can do, and the greatest thing you could do, is be selfish, especially in your boundaries or just your happiness and your peace of mind. Because if you don't have those things, quality of life goes down, and if you can't take care of yourself, again, you can't take care of the world. You can't better the world. So what if I lose people by becoming more of myself? That one's standard. I feel like everybody knows this, but I'm just going to say it once again. If you lose people in the path to really truly discovering who you are and your greatest, desires in life, then those weren't your people to begin with. They fell in love with the person that was acting or putting up a different persona to be liked or trying to fit in. And most people only like you because they're miserable and you're joining their misery, or there's a bad habit that you both have in common. If you truly have someone that truly loves you, even if your path is different, they will still love you, and they will make sure you know that. If someone stops liking you because you choose to be different or be better in their frame of mind, if you are less than them and you want to become better for yourself, and that's a version that is greater than them, they become threatened. That was never your friend in the first place. That was someone trying to control you. So if you lose people in the path of becoming yourself, it is not a loss, it's a gain. How do I know I'm not making a mistake? I don't think anything is a mistake. I think it's just a decision or a choice. And I don't think that you can choose wrong when it feels right, because the outcome that you think, sometimes when you think something is right or the right choice and it wasn't, it trusts that there's a reason why, and you just can't see it now. So I don't really truly believe in mistakes. I think we choose decisions that might hurt people at times, or there's things that happen that might not be right in the moment, which can be a mistake. But truly, if you're hurting someone, you can apologize. If things come around full circle. I think even if you did hurt someone, there's some healing to be done, and in that sense, there is no mistake, if that makes any sense, because you have unlocked something that needs to be healed. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like a mistake, but it's not. And that can go for a lot of different things. What does it actually mean to be awake in everyday life? To be awake is to be present. To be alive is to be present. What is going on in this moment right now? You know, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about that one person on Tinder or that person on Instagram that made a really crappy comment or that decision that you made 5 weeks ago that was stupid. Like, I think being awake is to be fully present and fully in your body and in your feelings. Almost in the point of like an observer. So use your human abilities of feeling, thinking, acting, seeing, and be fully there. Enjoy the moment, but also whenever a big feeling comes up and you feel out of control, become the observer. Like, observe yourself from a third point and see what's going on from a third eye to really observe what's actually happening. Because I think we can be consumed by our feelings sometimes too. So, I might be going too deep. How do I trust the version of me that I'm becoming? Trust that there's another version of you leading you to the right direction. So, you know, God, the universe, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, is always leading you down the right path. And I think to trust yourself is to trust your voice. And your voice will never lead you in the wrong direction, even if it seems like that in the moment. I think no matter what happens is what was supposed to happen and what's meant to be. So you truly don't have control. You have control in a sense, but what's going to happen is what's going to happen regardless. The only thing that you can really control is your voice. You know, if you're worried about making the wrong decision, there are really no wrong decisions like we were talking about. To trust your voice is to trust your channel, and your channel is coming from a higher dimension. Because what are thoughts, dude? Like, think about it. What the hell are thoughts? Where do they come from? Trust that your higher self or God or whatever you believe in leads you in the right direction. That's all you can really do. The more you trust that, the easier it gets. That's also like a muscle. So what is one thing I need to let go of to feel alive again? You already know the answer to that question. The first thing that comes to your mind, that's the answer. That was easy. What am I still holding on to that's keeping me asleep? Again, you already know that answer. You already know that answer. And I don't think you're asleep for asking that question. I think you're very much awake. Anything, like if you're watching this channel because you're looking for answers, please don't. I don't ever want to be someone who claims to know everything, because I don't. Nobody knows everything. Trusting something as the ultimate answer or the ultimate truth is giving the power to somebody else or something else outside of you. So the second that you give your power away to something else, you lose your integrity, you lose your power. You are giving your power away. So on that note, I do think go listen to people's stories, go ask questions, go hear people's perspectives. They might, the channel might come through them, answers might come through them, but that's not always meaning that's the truth. I think, in fact, I know that you are your greatest guru. You have the answers that are best for you always. Never look outside of yourself for the answers, because you already know everything. How would the universe, the stars, the creation, the same thing that made this entire universe, made you, not know the answer? You already know the answers. All of these questions that I asked, you already know yourself. That's how I answer them so well, because I already know them myself too. And they're just my truth. Maybe something I said is not your truth. That's okay. Discerning that and knowing that difference is the key. And go ask everybody and see everything. But I know when I was first starting my journey, I wanted to do every single psychedelic. I wanted to go and ask every guru. I wanted to do every breathwork activity there was out there, because I thought that there was something to discover that I didn't already know. I thought there was a magic answer, and there's not. There's nothing behind that door. Remember your power. Remember why you came here. Remember you are Source itself, living a human experience that is uniquely yours. So tap into that. That is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. The greatest gift that you can give the world is to know your own truth and to listen to the sound of your own song and to fucking dance to it all night long. And I wrap up episode 2 is just basic questions that I thought were really fun for just waking up. I think as a collective, we're all waking up little by little, a little bit more, and just seeing the topics that are happening everywhere. And I truly think that we are in a space as humanity, or we are in a very specific place as humanity that is so special and so impactful and so cool, because even when I was in 2018, that's when I started. It was almost 10 years ago. Actually, now that I think about it, it's 8 years ago. I would not be able to talk like this and be understood at all, only by a handful. But I feel like the majority of people could watch this and really tap and tune in. So what a time to be alive. I'm excited to keep going. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comments. If you have any other topics you want me to cover, follow me on Instagram, Kelly Jack. Look at my other YouTube videos. I've got vlogs. I've got lots of cool travel stuff. You know, it's a little bit about my life, but also just my lessons that I learned along the way. And that's all I can do, is to just inspire and hopefully be the bridge to everybody else and tell them that it's okay to cross it. So I'll see you next time.